Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if it's your very first time here, welcome on in. I'm back with another monthly plan with me, and this month was a little bit easy for me to figure out in terms of theming. In case you missed my previous video, I did a unboxing from the folks over at 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒌. I'll make sure to link that video in the cards and in the description so you can go watch it in case you want to see some fun vintage Parisian inspired stationery unboxing. But I ended up getting this really cool Rococo-esque, very Palace of Versailles window design. And I've never done a setup inspired by this kind of idea, and I just really loved a bunch of the items that I received in the 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒌 box that I just wanted to give it its own moment. So that's what we are doing for June. As you would have seen in the earlier clip, I had a ton of window designs to choose from, and there were actually two types of each design. One of them was a bit more of a transparent material, and the other was kind of like your standard cardstock material, and I ended up going with the cardstock just because I didn't really like how I could see through to the pages behind them. I really wanted the window to be the main focal point and to be as opaque as possible, so I went with the cardstock option. After using my tried and true alphabet stamps to stamp out the word June, you guys know I can't just end there. I really wanted to use this theme as an opportunity to bring back my favorite gold pen of all time, the Uniball Signo. I have used this pen countless times before. I feel like for my 2024 bullet journal, I used it almost every month, if not for every monthly setup, so I knew that for this year I kind of wanted to slow down a little bit on using it. Don't get me wrong, I love it, of course, but its biggest downfall is how long it takes to dry. It's a very inky pen, but that's why I love it, and I feel like this was just the perfect opportunity to get back into using it. I feel like green and gold is such a great combination, and I really wanted to highlight that this time around. So to add a little bit of pizzazz to the cover page, I used my Uniball Signo to do some Rococo-esque flourishes, kind of as a border around the window. I sketched out the flourishes just to get a better idea of scale and how many little loops I wanted in each of them. And that was pretty much it for this cover page. Like I said, I really wanted the window to kind of be the main focal point of the cover page. And I'm also realizing now that I don't think I've ever done like a green and gold like color palette situation, let alone a Rococo inspired setup. So this was very, very exciting for me. Although I have to say, I do wish that I had more time to put into this setup. I was kind of rushing a bit because I knew that this video was going to go up late. And I feel like I kind of cut corners in a few places, or like I don't usually plan out my spreads, to be honest. I kind of have like this general idea of what I want, and then I just make it up as I went along. But this was definitely the theme that I wish I kind of planned it out a little bit more. So I feel like some spreads could have turned out a little bit better, at least in my personal opinion, but nonetheless, I'm still happy that I kind of did something new, and that I did another art history related spread, because I absolutely love doing themes about that. Moving on to the next part of the cover page, I decided to do something a little bit different with this page, something I've never actually done before in a monthly setup. I mean, I've kind of done something similar, but I'm splitting a spread up. Okay, that makes no sense, but it might make sense when I explain. I have been a little bit in a funk when it comes to my bullet journal spreads. And that's kind of another reason why I was really struggling with this month, to be honest. Like, even though I love the theme, I'm kind of lost with the spreads that I'm creating for my bullet journal specifically. And I think this has a lot to do with the fact that I have started using Hobonichi Techo in the past month, and I kind of added these other daily journals to my repertoire. And I feel like they're kind of taking away from my bullet journal as a whole, and I don't want that. I want my bullet journal to be my main journal in terms of creativity and, like, you know, this time capsule of my life, so to speak. And I really haven't had the time to sit down and think about what spreads I want to focus on for my bullet journal. So when I sat down to film this video, I was really torn because I didn't want to keep doing the same thing because I wasn't feeling it anymore, but I also didn't have time to think about what new spreads to do. But I was like, you know what, I don't have to change the whole system this month. I should just try to maybe do a new spread or just to change things around a little bit. So what I normally use this craft envelope for is for my favorites page, and then I kind of put any ephemera that I get throughout the month in that envelope. But what I decided to do was give that envelope its own page, I guess. So this is the June ephemera page. So any receipts or just little, you know, bits of paper that I collect throughout the month that I want to save will go in this envelope, and it kind of has its own dedicated space. I don't know if I like this idea. I do and I don't. Again, I think it was just me trying to put a band-aid over a situation where I really should have just thought about it more. But we're all about experimenting, and it definitely doesn't have to be perfect. I just, you know, this is just kind of a learning process for me right now because I'm trying to figure out what I really want my bullet journal to be used for. And I thought I had that idea at the end of 2024, but over these past few months, I feel like I need to kind of revisit the spreads I do and try to make it work for me right now, if that makes any sense. To finish off the page, I'm just adding a few of those extra flourishes, which definitely come back throughout this entire setup. And of course, let me know what you think of this ephemera page in general. If you have any other ideas for what you think I should do in terms of this, let me know in the comments. I do plan to have a separate video kind of doing a mid-year journal reflections and also having a dedicated episode of my podcast on Patreon where I kind of just dive a little bit into where my mind is at with journaling. So if you're interested, feel free to check that out, but also look out for that video sometime soon. Alrighty, with the cover page all finished, we are going to now move on to the next spread, which is going to be my favorites page. You guys know the drill. There really isn't anything too crazy about this page. I just kind of add some decorations, some stickers, and then the title, and leave the rest of the empty space free for any photos, phrases, or fun moments that I want to highlight throughout the month of June. Even though I'm kind of in a bullet journaling slump when it comes to, you know, my spread ideas, all in all, I still really love the themes that I have been choosing over the past few years. Like I said before, I really want my bullet journal to be like a time capsule of my life, something that I could look back on in 20, 30 years and remember what I was doing, remember what I was feeling. And this is something I wish I had, like when I actually visited the Palace of Versailles back in, I think, like 2013, 2012. I just know I was a junior in high school, and it was just such an amazing and surreal experience because at the time I was taking AP Art History, so taking a class like that and then going to a country that was so steeped and rich in art itself was just such an amazing experience, and I hope I'm able to go back one day because I feel like I would see things so much more differently and I would take better pictures. And I'm realizing that I kind of missed the boat on that. I really should have printed out the photos that I took from the Palace of Versailles to include in this setup, but that's what I'm saying. I didn't really plan this theme too well, and it was definitely a missed opportunity, but I'll go ahead and include some of the photos that I took way back when. I'll even include a photo of me standing in front of the Palace of Versailles, well, the back side of the palace. God, those sunglasses are absolutely horrendous. I can't believe they are way too large for my face, but you know, just 2013 things, am I right? But look, even 16-year-old me knew I was going to be doing this bullet journal setup so many years later because I managed to take a picture of the same gold and green Rococo detail of this bed. So, you know, today was the day that I discovered my power to, you know, see the future. And in all seriousness, though, this just further reinforces the idea that I really want my bullet journal to be just a reflection of my life and the experiences I've had, the interests, like everything about myself. I want my bullet journal to be like if some random person were to find my journal in 100 years, they could understand exactly who I was as a person and exactly what I loved during the time that I was alive. So I feel like I have the themes down, which I was struggling with for quite a number of years, but now I just need to fine-tune the spreads within those monthly setups to just make them a little bit more catered to, you know, my life right now, who I am as a person right now, the kinds of things that I want to remember in maybe not 100 years, because that would mean that I would be 129, and I don't know if I'm living till that, but you get what I'm saying. But yeah, don't be surprised if I end up doing this theme or something similar at some point down the line, because I kind of want a redemption, or maybe I'll save that for my art history journal whenever that ends up being. How many times have I mentioned that and still have not done it? Anyways, moving on. I decided to use another one of the cardstock window designs to be kind of like the cover for the habit tracker. I really am such a fan of doing page cutouts whenever I get the chance to do so. I essentially mimicked the cover page idea with the window, the vintage paper, and the title using my alphabet stamps to write out the word habit, and then on the flip side is where I'm going to include the calendars for my habits. After pasting in all of the little calendars, I just went in with a few stickers here and there to fill in the empty spaces in between them. I think this is something else that I really need to fine-tune as well, because there are just some months where I just do not want to take the time to create these little calendars for the habit trackers. I either need to bulk create them, or I need to come up with like another system that's enjoyable, because this was just not fun. And it should be fun because it's my bullet journal, but yeah, I was just not really having it this time around. I think it was just on top of the fact that this video was already going up late, and I was already a few days into June by the time I was filming this, and it was just like, what is the fastest way I can create these calendars? So yeah, I wasn't really a fan of how they turned out, to be honest, but hopefully I can figure out the best way to you know, make the most time efficient calendars while also making them look nice. Moving on to the mood tracker, I am definitely not covering up a title that I heavily disliked when I was finished with it. I'm not even going to show the footage for it because it was just not, I didn't even know what I was doing halfway through, and I was like, you know what, trust the process. And I trusted the process and it didn't pan out. So we're just using paper to cover it up. But essentially my idea for the mood tracker was I was going to have this mirror detail in the middle. This was also from the Grabby unboxing, by the way. This was probably one of my favorite items from that box. It was just such a unique item. And I was like, well, I'm gonna use it for this setup 100%. But essentially my idea for this mood tracker was that I was going to have the mirror in the middle and then a whole bunch of flourishes kind of coming out of it. But I think I messed up by adding in those little pieces of paper sporadically on the page because that took up very valuable flourish space. So I don't think this is, and it ended up turning out how I would have liked, to be honest. But I guess we'll just have to see how it looks at the end of the month, and maybe it's not so bad. I just wasn't entirely a fan of how this page turned out in general. It's definitely a blessing and a curse whenever I want to do somewhat intricate mood tracking designs, but we will see how it looks in the end. Finally, in order to illustrate the moods themselves, I just created these 3 little flourishing details, and hopefully this spread looks better than it does now. Alrighty friends, here is the final flip through of my June setup inspired by the Palace of Versailles and all things Rococo. I really hope you enjoyed. Like I said, I am kind of a bit in a journaling slump right now, so hopefully by the time August rolls around, or not August, July. Hopefully by the time July rolls around, I kind of have a better idea of what I really want my bullet journal specifically to start meaning for me moving forward. As always, let me know your thoughts, and if there are any spreads that you would like to see from me or any ideas, please let me know. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.